Break the wheel. Make it stop.
Hello again, gentle viewers, and welcome back to another episode of The Broken Wheel. In this episode, we'll be going over the 4th episode of the first season, titled Dragon Reborn. As I've done in previous videos, instead of going through the episode from beginning to end, I'm going to go over the 3 plot lines in their entirety so that I don't need to keep going back and forth, and it'll just make more sense. Though most of this episode does focus around Nyneave, Moiraine, and Lan. So if you're not subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so and helping it grow. And if you like this content, consider leaving a like. But with all that said, let our journey begin again. When the episode starts, we find ourselves in the Kingdom of Gil'dan, more specifically the capital city, which is currently under attack by the Dragonsworn, or people who are loyal to the False Dragon Logain. And we see the king of Gil'dan attempting to get away from Logain himself with his guards trying to buy him some time. However, Logain does eventually catch up to him, and this is the first time we see a man channel. I was wondering if the blackness of the power had to do with the fact that the male half, Saidin, is often depicted as black. However, there is this white element to it, so I'm thinking this is more to visually represent the Dark One's taint on men who channel. So, as Logain seems to be about to finish off the King of Gil'dan, we see these apparitions appear next to him, showing that he is starting to succumb to the madness. However, he rebukes their advice and decides to heal the king's wounds and offer to bring the king under his sway as an act of mercy. For he doesn't want to actually kill anybody, he wants to unite everyone as is his destiny. So as we come in, we see Nyneave looking over the camp of the Aes Sedai, and you can clearly see the 2 separate parts of the camp with the reds and the greens Ajahs. And I like what they've done with the costuming here, how each Ajah has their own color scheme, obviously, but you also see that their clothing are not the same, which is to say that they all have their kind of cultural influences from wherever these women are from, which is a very nice detail. So when Moiraine is strong enough, she wants to aid the others in shielding Logain. Shielding meaning that they are keeping him from accessing the true source, or the one power. I was curious how they were going to show this visually, for in the books there is a description of how usually what channelers do to each other when they face off is try to cut each other off from the power, doing so by using what is described as a wedge of their own power to cut off their access to the one power. In this case, what we're seeing is a sort of shield or net being placed over Logain so as to keep him from causing any harm. It's not that he can't touch the true source, it's that they are keeping any weaves that he might try to make from escaping. This is also the first time they mentioned the concept of weaves and the 5 elements that can make up weaves, as Liandrin mentions that weaves of air are being put in his ears so that he can't hear. We also get introduced to another green, who's also a friend of Moraine's, apparently, Alanna. And a bit later we see Lan practicing with Kareen's warder, Stefan, showing that the 2 of them are close friends. So as Kareen goes to rest while Moiraine takes over for her, Moiraine and Alanna, we get to see more of Moiraine and Alanna's friendship as they talk about earlier memories. And we also get to learn a little bit more about the Greens, the Green Ajah and Alanna. One thing that I thought was a nice detail are these bells in her hair, for that is a custom from the kingdom of Arafel, which is on the borderlands of the Great Blight. So as night falls, Nyneave decides to have dinner and hang around the campfire of the Green Aja, more specifically the warders, and she's quite surprised by how the warders act and behave, thinking them as lapdogs or errand boys to the Aes Sedai, but she finds that they actually take great pride in their duties as warders, as well as Stefan describing the bond between an Aes Sedai and her warder. We also see that the Greens, unlike other Ajas, have more than one warder, while most other Ajas only have one, with the exception of the Reds, who Leandrin points out the Reds do not have warders. We also get an implication of a question that is asked, do Aes Sedai and warders have sex? And the answer is yes, though this is far more common among the Greens than other Ajas, and this kind of makes Nyneave a little apprehensive because she's wondering what is the exact relationship between Lan and Moraine. So when the morning comes, Nyneave sees Lan going off by himself, and being the snoop she seems to be in this particular series, she decides to follow him, and she finds he's gone off to pray by himself. And Lan discloses a bit about how this is a custom from where he's from, and Nyneave, feeling that she's interrupted a private moment, shares one of herself, of something said in the old tongue that she says her parents said to her before they were killed. And Lan asks her if she'd like to know what it means.
It's what the last king of Manetheren said to his wife. Before the battle, they knew they'd lose. We shall go into the land, so our children can always hold us, and we'll never be alone.
So then we hear these whistling noises as well as these flashes of light in the cave where Logain is being held, and Perrin confirms that these are wards that she personally set in case the Dragonsworn have decided to try to free Logain. And so the camp is immediately attacked by these people who believe that Logain is the Dragon Reborn. During the confusion of this, Logain uses this opportunity to knock out Leandrin and Perrin and set himself free from his bonds. And then Moraine appears, and they have a short conversation with her mostly trying to decipher whether or not Logain is actually the Dragon Reborn, but then obviously decides that he is not, and then with Leandrin and Perrin getting back up, they attempt to shield him once again. So Logain lashes back out, and Perrin ends up dropping her own defenses to shield Leandrin and Moraine. When she dies, her death is immediately felt by Stefan, who goes into a rage and charges in for the cave. Moraine and Leandrin are still trying to shield Logain. We see this kind of light coming around Leandrin's face, and Moraine cautions her about drawing too much of the one power, or she will burn herself out. Again, this is the first time we've heard of this concept, and it is a danger for anyone who channels to try and draw too much and end up causing themselves all kinds of harm. When Stefan reaches the cave, he immediately flies at Logain to kill him to avenge Perrin's death. However, in doing so, he ends up giving Logain an opportunity by shattering his axes and sending shrapnel out to incapacitate or even a mortal wound to the others that have come. Again, this is not how shielding is supposed to go in the books. So upon seeing this and realizing that Lan and several of the others are mortally wounded and will die, Nyneave just releases a great amount of the one power in a blazing show of light that we see goes to everyone and immediately heals all their wounds, acknowledging that she also can channel, and the amount of power she's able to wield even humbles Logain, who's now even questioning, is he really the Dragon Reborn? He's not so sure anymore. The Aes Sedai then rally, and we see them do linking. Now, this is something that women have an advantage of over men who can channel, for men cannot link with other men, but women can link with other women. And as you see here, linking is the Aes Sedai channeling their power into one person who then controls it all to form a much stronger weave, and this is able to capture Logain, though Liandrin ends up taking it a step further. When I first saw this, I wasn't sure about it, but it was later confirmed that she gentled him, which means she's permanently cut him off from the one power. And Logain realizes this immediately, as anyone who is cut off from the one power permanently, whether man or woman, immediately falls into a very deep depression from being deprived of the true source. So we rejoin Perrin and Egwene from where we left them last episode, still with the traveling folk, Tuatha'an, Tinkers. I'm just probably going to use the word Tinkers just because it's easier to enunciate. So in this episode, we're really learning more about the way of the leaf that the Tuatha'an follow, which is a philosophy of nonviolence, for they will commit no act of violence even in preservation of themselves or their loved ones. And we learn this mostly from interactions between Perrin and Ela. Ela is able to guess that Perrin has suffered some trauma due to violence, and basically poses the question to him.
What greater revenge against violence than peace? What greater revenge against death than life?
For Perrin can't quite wrap his brain around this concept of not defending himself. And this is a theme I think we'll keep coming back to with Perrin, for in his story in the books, we do see him having this decision he feels he needs to make or choose between violence and peace. And the way of the leaf is beautifully explained by Ela in this particular passage. So we don't really see much of Egwene and Aram in this. The only thing we really glean from them is that Aram tells Egwene that he's almost 20 years old, at which time he will be able to leave the caravan. This seems to be similar to the Amish practice of Rumspringa, where they leave the community and decide if they want to come back. Most do, but occasionally some do not. So Rand, Mat, and Thom are sticking to the back trails and wilderness, basically avoiding the main roads so as not to be spotted. They come across this small farm family and offer to do chores in order to barter for a place to sleep and some food. The horse that Mat is riding is getting skittish quite often, and also Mat's health seems to have turned for the worst. He seems lethargic, tired, and at one point we see him actually vomiting, though we do see like part of this vomit is actually some kind of blackness that retreats back into his mouth. Thom and Rand have a conversation where Thom reveals that his nephew Owen was also a man who could channel, and that he exhibited certain symptoms that Mat is now showing, as in animals are scared to be around him being sick, having these irritable mood swings, and fears what will happen to him if the madness fully takes him. Rand doesn't quite buy this. He feels that, this is something that Mat would tell him, but Thom then tells him that, he was close with his nephew until one day the Red Aja came and took Owen away and then gentled him. After that, he was never the same. He just slowly started to fade away until one night while at the dinner table, he took his own life with a steak knife. So Mat encounters the youngest daughter of this family, and again we see his more gentle and caring nature as he is reminded of his two little sisters, as well as being reminded that now without him, all they have to take care of them are his parents, who are not really parents at all. When they go to sleep, Rand again is having another nightmare, and again we see this figure with flames coming out of his eyes and his mouth. Amazon has named this person as Beelzebub. He never refers to himself as that, but he does in the books. When Rand awakens, he realizes that Mat is gone, and Thom lets him know that something isn't quite right on the farm. And they go looking, and they find that the family has been killed, and there's Mat just standing there, seeming to be in a trance, looking into the darkness. He then holds up the ruby knife that he took from Shadar Logoth, and then we see the Myrddraal or the Fade appear. Apparently, somehow Mat could see him, even though he was hiding in the shadows. And we also see the Fade ability to disappear into one shadow and reappear out of another. Thom attacks the Fade in order to give the boys time to run away and retreat. And they do so out into the darkness, with feeling horrible that they've caused this to happen to this innocent family. And this is something that is kind of been condensed for the series. In the book, we spend several chapters following the two of them and how they move from small town to small town, never knowing who to trust, fearing that they're going to cause trouble for those they do come in contact. So I hope you've enjoyed this dive into the episode Dragon Reborn. As always, if you enjoy this content, consider leaving a like and helping the channel grow. As always, thank you for watching, and may the light be with you.